Hello, and welcome to our Cytonn Report Weekly segment today with me, Jepkoech Kendagor. Today we are going to look at the Kenya Economic Review, and with us today in studio is Cornelius Awondo, who is the investment analyst at Cytonn Investments. Welcome, Cornelius.
Thank you.
So, Cornelius, can you briefly tell us about the performance of the country's economy?
This year we've seen the economy really pick up because it's grown by 6.3% so far as at Q2 2018. If you compare it to the last year, it had grown by around 4.7%. So this year the economic growth has been boosted by, among other things, the political stability that we've had in the country. Since last year's elections, we've seen a commitment by our leaders to join hands and work together to promote an economic development agenda. And also we've had the improved rains that have boosted our agricultural production, given that agriculture is the mainstay of our economy. That it contributes about 20% of our GDP growth. So the increased rains this year have also contributed to increased agricultural production. We have increased tea exports to the European countries, and also the horticultural exports, bringing in foreign exchange to the country, which has also stabilized the currency more or less, because it had appreciated by between 2 to 2.5% up to September 2018. So yeah, the economy is in pretty good shape this year.
So tell us more about how the monetary and the fiscal policies put in place by central bank affect the macroeconomic fundamentals in the country.
When you talk about fiscal and monetary policies, fiscal policies normally revolve around the revenue that the country receives versus how it incurs the expenditure to run the government and also to run the country at large. While monetary policy usually revolves around things like money supply and interest rates, depending on things like inflation and the foreign exchange conditions of the country. So for the fiscal policies that we've had, one, I can begin by talking about forex reserves in the country. They've been increasing, as I spoke about earlier, because of increased exports of horticultural and agricultural produce to our major trade partners. So thereby bringing in foreign exchange to the country. So the central bank is able to use this foreign exchange to control the currency movements, in that we've not had the currency depreciate as much as you would think, because we've had enough forex reserves in the central bank. We've had around 8.1 billion shillings reserved by the government, which is equivalent to about 5.3 months of import cover. That has served well to also boost the economy. The government, with regards to expenditure, it's managed to spend around 90% of its budgeted expenditure. Given that the Kenyan economy is primarily driven by government spending, where we see government spending on huge infrastructure projects like the standard gauge railway. We have these bypasses that are being developed. All these projects need money from the government, and so the government had set aside a budget for this expenditure during this economy. Talking about the monetary policies in place, the government usually uses monetary policy to control things like inflation and things like interest rates. We saw that the government did not repeal the interest rate cap that has been placed in September 2016, which had been placed at 4 points above the central bank rate, which is currently at 9%. So that means that the borrowing rate from banks right now is at 13%. When you look at inflation has averaged around 4.5% year to date, which means that it's within the government target of 2.5% to 7.5%. So with regards to inflation, we've not seen much inflation around in the economy, partly because of the reduced prices of food products due to the increased rain that we have had during the year. And also, even though we've had the increase in taxes and the introduction of VAT on fuel products, it's not really impacted on inflation as much as we had thought, because they initially planned to levy 16% VAT, but then it was reduced to 8% VAT on petroleum products. So it's not really had an effect on inflation as we had earlier anticipated. So with regards to fiscal and monetary policy, you can say that the government is on track to keeping the macroeconomic environment vibrant, and the central bank also says that the economy is not performing as well as it should. So it's just adopting an accommodative monetary policy so that we can see increased economic activity going forward.
You've given us great insights about the monetary and fiscal policies. Maybe you can tell us about the outlook of Kenya's economy as we wind up the year.
We cannot really expect a reversal of the conditions that have led to this economic growth for the year, given that it is almost coming to an end. But the central bank expects an economic growth of 6.2% average for the year. But at Cytonn Investments, we expect an average economic growth of 5.5% for the year. I would say the economic growth will be somewhere between 5.5% and 6.2% for the year.
Thank you very much, Cornelius, for joining us to explain to us what the Kenya Economic Review is. And we hope that next time you'll make time for us again. Thank you very much, viewer, for watching us and for tuning in each and every week. Until next time, goodbye.